There are things in superhero comics that no matter how you frame them, and no matter what creators are telling that story, it just washes over me. It makes no impact whatsoever.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
It may be a little bit of a weird one. There's a couple of not great, but good stories from today.
Okay.
But I don't know that I could tell them.
Okay.
Because they are... So you shouldn't just say, okay. You should be like, why? you should want to know more.
No, come on!
No, but you should at least want to know why I can't tell them.
Why can't you tell them, Patrick?
They're borderline offensive.
Oh, that's not good then.
I mean, in a funny way.
Well...
We had a customer who was looking to buy bulk magazine bags and boards.
All right.
And first of all, they were at the counter getting rung up, and they were asking if such a thing exists. And I'm like, yeah, it's in the back with all of our supplies. And he was inquiring on different prices. And to be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know what 100 mag bags goes for?
I don't.
My guess is $6.99.
Yeah, $7.
Yeah, but I wasn't 100%.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, and there's boards too? I'm like, yeah. And those are like $12 or $13. But they're going to be in the back with all the rest of our supplies. And he stands, he's like, well, so how much are they? I'm like, I don't know exactly. There's signs, they're all priced, but they're in the back with the rest of the supplies. And he's kind of standing there, and there are people behind him in line. Mm-hmm. I am not going to go show him. He's like, well, I'll just buy these, and I guess I'll go look.
Okay.
And then the line clears out, and he's down there for a while, so I go to check on him. Uh-huh. And the reason he was having a hard time is we're out of boards.
Okay.
The bags were there. He's like, yeah, I'll take 100 bags of boards. We apparently don't have any boards right now. Because, we're pretty wiped out of supplies from the sale. Supplies always do pretty well on the sale.
Sure. I mean, for a lot of people, they'll use them eventually, so there's no sense in not stocking up.
Yeah. It just means our supply bill next week is going to be big.
Probably.
And I'm like, yeah, we don't have those. And then this is my fault because I said, well, what are you trying to bag? Thinking maybe Golden Age bags would fit or something. Maybe there's a comparable substitute.
Sure. And
then he looks around, like left and right, to make sure the coast is clear.
Oh.
Leans in.
Uh-oh.
And he names... First of all, I don't know if it's one magazine with an elaborate title or two separate magazines.
Uh-huh.
I'm not repeating them for two reasons.
Uh-huh.
One, I don't exactly remember the title or titles. And two, the titles definitely tell you what kind of magazines they are.
Uh-huh. And three, you can't say without giggling.
And three, I cannot say without giggling. And because it wasn't just like, Playboy. Mm-hmm. It was very descriptive, very particular subject matter magazines.
Sure.
That dealt with...
For the true aficionado.
Yes.
Not the dabbler that you might normally have for a magazine of that nature.
Dabbler was part of the title.
Uh-oh.
No. It dealt with body part and skin color.
Got it.
And I just said, yeah, no, you want magazines for those. Yeah, definitely magazines for those.
Definitely keep those bagged.
And
please keep those bagged.
I couldn't... I kind of couldn't wait to tell Gina that story.
Sure.
But by the time the store cleared out, I'd forgotten the titles.
Oh, okay.
Poor Gina was not feeling well today and was in a few hours late and then left early.
Mm-hmm. Gina not feeling well seems like it's a pretty standard occurrence now.
Well, I hope she's feeling better.
I hope so, too.
What she missed this morning was not one of the more fun things we do. Dad, what do we do?
Well, do you mean on this Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Podcasting Network?
I mean, it can be that, where we talk about the business aspects of running a comic shop.
Sure.
But I guess I answered my own question by saying we run a comic shop.
Uh-huh.
what is the number one thing we have to do to run a comic shop?
Sell comic books?
Yes, sell comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we sell them?
We use a point-of-sale system.
We use a computer
Mhm.
that scans a barcode
Mhm.
and takes the item out of inventory, which, I mean, if you look back in the days of cigar boxes and piles of quarters and change and things,
Yep.
this is a miracle. The fact that there are lines of code that can take an item out of inventory and then tell you to reorder it at the same time.
It used to be that Marvel Comics as a publisher, when they were releasing comics for the direct market, did not even include a barcode in the barcode box because it was unnecessary. Comic
Yeah.
shops didn't use barcode scanners.
A quick side note. I don't know if I told the story before. You'll have to remind me, but you might not remember either. An artist friend of ours was visiting, I believe, France, and I feel like I told the story before, was in a museum that had some vintage comic books.
Okay.
And he posted a photo in front of an Action #1 with a comment of, I have never before seen a pristine copy of Action Comics #1 before. I'm in awe of being in presence of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a barcode on the cover.
That's not right.
Yeah.
They didn't have barcodes back then on comic books or
No.
pretty much anything. I think, possibly.
But it was pointed out to him in the comments, and he said, "Oh, I was so just in awe of seeing the book, I didn't even notice that."
Was the artwork done by like Jim Lee or George Perez or somebody? They didn't do that cover back
It was
then.
a legit reprint.
Okay.
But it's just like, oh my god, and it wasn't, hey, you're dumb. It was that youthful enthusiasm.
I suppose, but there have been plenty of times where we don't buy comics, but people will still come in and try and sell us comics. And I can't even count the number of times someone has brought in, like, a newspaper reproduction of the first appearance of Spider-Man and
Yep.
said, I have the first Spider-Man. And it's like, you don't. The Chicago Sun-Times did not publish Spider-Man. Like, that's hint one. That didn't happen. And then all of the other reasons why you do not have an incredibly valuable vintage comic book.
So back to our business that relies on a point-of-sale system. We've talked numerous times in the past about what we use. It's called Comic Suite, and it runs off of a program called RMS, Retail Management System Service.
One of those.
Psychopaths.
Yeah, it was originally put together by Microsoft, who has since sold it off to another company who is responsible for its maintenance now.
Or lack of, I guess. And the Diamond component, Diamond Comics being the publisher that we get our comics from, Diamond created Comic Suite, which is a adaptable module for the comics industry for RMS. And there are three basic programs that we use from this system. We use the point of sale, which is the actual register program, which is what rings up comics and creates sales transactions. And we use Manager, which controls all the inventory and stock levels and things. And then we use Comic Suite, which is specifically our customers and their pull lists and those type of services. And it's a very, very generalized version of what
There's
these
also
things do.
a fourth module called Administrator, which is if you want to deal with the raw databases and run queries, that's where you would do it at.
Which we don't even usually have open.
No, we don't have the familiarity with SQL Server or whatever is being used.
I don't even know the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's like the higher level stuff that usually, if the programmers need to get into the system and make changes to keep something bad from happening, they would have to go into Administrator, run queries, and get the information they need that way.
So imagine my surprise when I come in and the computer had rebooted overnight, as any type of Windows-based computers want to do on a very regular basis.
Yeah, I don't love that about Windows computers.
No.
I have a Mac and it always asks me.
We could change the settings so it'll ask you,
I guess.
but those updates need to run eventually,
Yeah,
and they may as well run in the middle of the night.
I guess.
It just seems that there's so many updates regularly. And what is even more baffling to me is that I use 3 separate Windows-based PCs on a regular basis, and they don't update, and they all run the same operating system. They don't update at anywhere near the same time.
Weird.
It's days apart. It's not like I've set, like, oh, this one should do it at 2 a.m., this one should do it at 4 a.m., and this one should do it at 6 a.m. No, it's completely different days altogether.
Weird.
I don't understand it. And when I came in this morning, I could not get the point of sale system to display on the screen. I could get it to open. It was on, it was active, but I just couldn't get it on the screen. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's have you try turning it off and on again. So I did, and it didn't work. And then I pulled up Facebook to see if there was anything on the RMS boards about this type of behavior. And there were some horror stories of people that had Windows updates that completely corrupted their operating system. And to save the computer, they had to reset to factory settings and then reinstall RMS.
It's rough.
That's rough. And I'm like, well, it's not that. The other two programs that we use are up and active. And I'm like, let's see, because somebody had a problem where the barcode scanner and the printer stopped working. No problems with that. I couldn't test the printer, but I could test the barcode scanner. I'm like, that's all fine. So whenever I have a tech question like this, I don't know what to do, and I tried the limited things I know how to do, I called Dow.
Mm-hmm.
And Dow remoted into the system and tried some of the same things, and then said, yeah, I guess just reboot the whole thing.
Yeah, if it ever gets to that point where you just can't make a system do something, try turning the whole thing off and back on again.
So I did, and it didn't change anything. And one of the things I specifically said to you, do you remember what I had a suggestion?
No.
And you said, no, it's not that because I can see the whole screen.
No.
I had said, it's like it's on, but it's somewhere that we can't see. It's on the desktop somewhere else. It's too low.
Mm-hmm.
And you specifically said, no, I can see the whole desktop. It's not there.
Okay. Where was it?
Do you remember saying that part?
Yeah, but where was it?
Long story short, and by long I mean hours long, when it updated, it changed the display settings to minus 3200 by minus 3200.
Okay. It changed the display settings for the register? Or for the desktop?
For point of sale.
Okay.
Specifically just for point of sale.
So only for point of sale?
Yes.
Okay. How was that fixed?
By setting it back.
How was it set back?
Because it was active.
Right.
The program was active.
Right.
You just couldn't see it.
Right.
But all of the controls were still active.
Okay.
So if you like, all the function keys are still active.
Okay.
So, for example, had there been a transaction in the system and you hit Shift F11,
sure,
print the receipt.
So how did you fix it?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, how did they fix it?
By opening the command to change the settings. But set the screen ratio from minus 3200 to 0.
How did they do that?
Control F6 or Control F6 brought up the settings tab that they needed.
Oh, okay. So there's a settings tab on register?
Yeah.
Okay, that we've never used because we've never needed it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's peculiar.
Yeah. But when it didn't work when I reset it, I called.
So it's not that, like, when you had said you thought it was off the screen and we just couldn't see it, there had been times in the past where the resolution for the monitor was set in some bizarre way.
Yeah.
Where that literally was true, where if I remoted into the system, I was getting like basically the raw feed and you were getting some weird cropped version of it. So I could see programs that you couldn't access because your screen was set in a way.
Because the monitor was set wrong, yeah.
But when I was remoting in, I was seeing the entire screen, and we could find that there was a running instance of point of sale, but basically it existed theoretically. So we were both right in that I was looking at the whole desktop and it wasn't like off the screen. It was essentially inside out.
Yeah, I wasn't saying, you were wrong, I was right. I was saying that I was actually way closer than I ever have a right to be because I don't know these kinds of things.
I had no idea there was a way to, like, that there was a settings menu within point of sale. I've never used it.
Yeah.
In 10 years, I've never used the settings menu.
So I'd called the help desk, and I got a guy's voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And in the voicemail, it said, if this is an emergency, use this email address.
Mm-hmm.
He said the email address, and I'm trying to remember to write it down when the beep goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, shit, I have to start talking. But I have to finish writing this down, because it was something like Tech POS Help Desk at blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I was trying to remember, was it Tech POS or POS Tech? And then I'm like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. Leave a very detailed message.
Sure.
Then pull up the email and email, like, hey, here's the exact same problem we're having, and send them off, and then wait.
Yep.
And there was a point where a club member had called with questions about things they wanted to add to their list next week, and what were we doing again for Detective 1000? What was the deal for that? Mm-hmm. And then I had two separate club members in at the same time. One who had things on hold in the back. However, I kind of ruined that story backwards. One who was a twin, who I mistook for the other twin, and realized I had to get stuff from the back, and another club member who just started asking random questions about books while I'm on the phone, and I thought, all of these things, which are manageable, are overshadowed by the fact that I can't ring anybody up.
Uh-huh.
And the only transactions that the transactions I immediately had to do were all, example, statues in the back, right?
Right.
Fine. Those weren't priced.
Nope.
I can't pull them up in the system because I can't scan them.
You could. It's just weird.
So I'm like, all right, I'll go into
Manager.
I went into Comic Suite and pulled up a dashboard.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, I'm going to pull up this person's account. It'll tell me what's in the hold box. It doesn't show prices.
Yep.
So then I can get the diamond codes, plug those into the Diamond website, and find the price.
For future reference, if you have this problem happen again where you can't access register for some reason and need to find out the price of something that isn't priced in the store, you can go into Manager, and then in the items field, go to Find.
And scan it.
And that's, since the barcode is an alias, it'll come up and it'll tell you what the SRP is for that item.
But the important thing was making sure I wrote down everything everybody bought.
Right, so you could ring it up later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were this stack of scrap paper going through each transaction. But then it's like, all right, and the discounts, and the tax, and the bag tax. And then it was, can you tell me when these come out as well? Like, oh, man. Give me a moment, please. And then there was, because I'd pulled out the other brothers' books, like, oh, I can't get this today. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, no, I can't. Like, I'm not. I mean, I know I'm hearing more about it. I'm like, it's okay. Let me go get your stuff. And then he's still talking about it, and I had to say, look, I thought you were him.
Right.
I mistook you for your twin. I wasn't putting these out to say, hey, buy these. I thought you were him. Let me put these away so you don't have to look at them. He's like, well, no, let me call him. And then he bought them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And can you tell me when the next two come? Like, I
can't right
yes,
now.
Yes, I can. Give me a moment. I can. And then, like, oh, okay, somebody else's club stuff. Okay, well, let me break it down. Okay, and then, oh, are these off the shelf? Okay, right there. All right, okay, good. Yes. Yes, and I thought, this is where a second person would be very helpful.
Sure.
But it all worked out a few hours later.
That's good.
So Diamond called back, and I'm like, oh, Diamond, thank God. I answer the phone, and it's just, meh, 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 meh. I'm like, wow, what is that? Hang up.
That's an irritating noise.
And then I'm like, boy, I hope they call back. And they did. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, there was a weird noise. Like, yeah, we heard it too. Sorry about that. But that wasn't the only time we had phone issues, because our internet kept cutting out the rest of the day.
Cool.
In the middle of phone calls, looking things up, it would constantly stop. Like going to send an email, like, oh, I'm going to attach this file and send this in. Oh, that doesn't attach. Oh.
Yeah, when I remoted into the system earlier in the morning, it knocked me off a few times, and I didn't know if that was the service we're using or the internet connection at the store, but it was probably the internet connection at the store.
Yeah, it was, because it was literally but it was also the phone connection, which does make sense, because now that we use AT&T instead of Comcast had a separate modem out in the trash room. This doesn't. AT&T, we just use it right off of the what's in the store. So if one goes out, they all go out. And you could tell because the phone would literally say no line on the readout. Yeah, I had a phone conversation with another retailer, and he had to keep calling back because we kept getting cut off. Yeah, boy, what a fun technology day.
Yeah.
So the neat thing, this neat is the wrong word. I shouldn't have said neat. But when I got the Diamond Tech guy to call me back, on the one hand, and I had said, we run Comic Suite off of RMS in the message, and he thought I said RMH. And he's like, all right, this is going to be tough, but I think I know what to do. But our RMH is difficult for this. And I said, no, it's RMS. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is real easy. And ultimately, while it was a Diamond Comic Suite tech support manager that fixed it, it wasn't a Comic Suite problem.
Yeah.
It's just a weird, I mean, I guess technically it was because it changed the settings, but had he not experienced this one other time before, this could have been a nightmare.
Yeah, super, super confusing.
And I even said to Gina, I'm like, this was not fun, but it was manageable. It was slow. I mean, it was a slow process.
Right.
But I knew what to do to, when it eventually got fixed, how we'd be okay. Like, I could have worked the whole day that way.
Sure.
I would not have wanted to.
I mean, a long time ago, there were days where I would work and the power would go out.
Yeah.
People would still come in, and it's like, well, you got to ring people up somehow. Register doesn't work. Computer doesn't work. You're writing stuff down. You're putting money into a change box. You're figuring it out for 4 or 5 hours until eventually the power comes back on.
Remember, it happened so often we had a series of flashlights ready.
Yes.
Because, for multiple people shopping.
Sure.
But had it been something that corrupted the operating system like that, well, I mean, we would have done the same thing, but that would have been much harder to fix.
Yes.
And after I hung up with you, you're like, turn it off and on again. It didn't work. Huh. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do from where I am.
Sure there is. You could remote in. You can call Diamond and sit on the phone with them.
Yeah. Well, as you saw, it's not sitting on the phone with them. It's waiting for someone to call you back.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help me out at all.
And it could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
As me knocking on wood. And I even said to Gina, I'm like, some people report these terrible, terrible problems. And we do have problems. Not often, but we do. But they're usually fixed moderately quickly.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jake, from Comic Suite Tech Support.
Thanks, Diamond.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we were on the phone for mere minutes when he just, remoted in and explained what he was doing. Yeah, boy, not a fun way to do your day.
No.
To start your day, to work on the day. And what made it even a little bit worse was one of the club members who was in was giving me and the person that I had worked with the last time he was in gifts for helping him out so well.
Aw.
But he didn't remember who the person I was with was.
Okay.
And at any given point, it could have been anyone.
Sure.
And if you try to describe the people that work at Challengers, there's a lot of similarities.
There definitely are. Very homogenous crew.
So, and he's like, yeah, this is for the your coworker from that day? I'm like, I'm real sorry, I don't know who that was. So I'm like, was it Gina, Donovan, Ashley, Lizzie, Samantha? None of those names rung a bell.
Okay.
Like, and I'm like, oh man, and to be fair, I didn't even look at the gift. It was in a Benny's bag.
Okay.
He's like, this one is for you, and this one is for him. I'm like, that's great, thank you so much. But I'm real sorry. I need to the register's broken. Blah blah. He's like, oh no, that's fine. And then after it wasn't fixed, but things calmed down a little bit. I'm like, all right, I was working on his stuff, and then he's like, yeah, I remember you said you liked raspberry vodka. I'm like, oh right, the bag. Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's a bottle of raspberry vodka. Hey man, that's super nice of you. Yeah, and then she got this. It's a bottle of Bullet bourbon. That must be Donovan. Really nice leather bag for that one and everything.
Cool.
I'm like, that's super nice. I'm like, hey man, I'm really sorry. I was just distracted by that computer issue, and like I wasn't snappy at anything, but I didn't give the full attention that I should have for a gift of that generosity.
Sure.
So I felt bad in that regard. I think it's all okay. I think it is. But yeah, boy, that wasn't a fun day. I feel like there's a lot that happened this week in comics, but this day has made me forget most of it.
Okay.
So, do you have any things that it came up? Like, Marvel announced a book that, on the surface, I think is so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, man, if I was 10 years old, I'd love it.
It's going to be successful.
Is it, though?
Yep.
Is it successful because it's called Savage Avengers and not Secret Defenders?
I mean, it being called Savage Avengers doesn't hurt its possibilities.
Yeah. The thing that bothered me most about that is that they even say this is not a sanctioned Avengers team. Then why call it Avengers?
Because it sells better.
Really? USA Avengers?
I mean, better than if they would have called it U.S. Defenders or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, it is an Avengers team that some articles say is led by Conan, but it looks like it's led by Punisher. Anyway, the lineup is Venom, Punisher, Conan, Doctor/Brother Voodoo, Elektra. Am I missing anybody?
The Wolverine.
Oh, right, the Wolverine. That is your Avengers team. And it looks like the Wolverine in his brown costume.
Yep.
Although it's hard to tell because it was just his head.
Because he's savage.
That's right. But when he was the Savage Wolverine, he was in the yellow costume from that old book. And I'm pretty sure it's the same exact font for Savage.
Hard to tell.
And then it has a sword that goes through the Avengers logo. Written by Jerry Dugan and drawn by Mike Diodato Jr. And normally I'd say for the first arc, but that is a dude who stays on books for a while.
Yeah, it's not impossible that he could stay with it long term, but with Marvel it's impossible to say for sure. It'll be coming out May 1st, just in time for Free Comic Book Day.
Wow.
So if you happen to be at your local comic shop for Free Comic Book Day, you can check out the first issue of The Savage Avengers. That same day, May 1st, DC is releasing Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 by the same creative team that did the first two, and the same creative team that is responsible for the upcoming Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
So when you say the first two, you don't mean the cartoon
I don't mean the Adventures one from
Okay.
IDW. I mean the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 from DC Comic Books.
Okay, so this is still a DC IDW thing, not IDW DC. Like, I'm surprised there was never a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman version, you know? Where they flip the titles and flip who's publishing what.
Yeah, I guess that was IDW only did the Adventures animated designs.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fun, but people definitely did not care in the same way they cared about the other one.
Yeah.
May 1st looks like a busy day for DC Comic Books because they also have their 25-cent comic book, DC's Year of the Villain. Just like last year's... what did they call that one?
I don't remember.
It was
like
DC Nation
DC
Zero.
Nation, yeah.
It was DC Nation
DC
Zero.
Universe Zero.
No, DC Nation Zero.
Okay.
But it'll have a bunch of short stories that spotlight different villains that are going to be important for the second half of DC's 2019 publishing. There is Scott Snyder, James Tynion, Brian Michael Bendis are the writers, Alex Malieb, Jim Chung, Francis Manapolo the artists. Greg Capullo is doing the main cover. The featured villains are Lex Luthor, Bane, the Batman Who Laughs, and Cheetah. Which I assume the Lex Luthor story is what's going to have Cheetah in it, probably. And there's also some giant space head in the background, and I don't know who that is, and I don't 100% care.
Oh, wait. No, I knew. Oh.
Is it Perpetua?
It's Perpetua, yes.
Oh, I 0% care then.
Yeah.
I really don't care about what's going on in Justice League right now. And
Dal.
I was ready to be on board with that book because I'm like, you know what? I've liked Scott Snyder's stuff generally, not all of it, but most of it. And I like, the idea of a faster, more propulsive storyline that's shorter stories. I like this lineup. I like these artists. But much like everybody who shops at Challengers, I'm pretty much done with Justice League now.
Tal.
Patrick.
Perpetua is the first entity ever to have been imprisoned in the Source Wall.
I don't care.
Now she's loose.
I don't care.
She got loose in the annual.
Don't care. There are things in superhero comics that no matter how you frame them, and no matter what creators are telling that story, it just washes over me. It makes no impact whatsoever. Undersea Kingdoms is one of them. Like, I don't care about, like, underwater people and their problems. Like, I just fundamentally can't care about it.
Quick sidebar.
Uh-huh.
Did you care about San Diego when it sunk?
I mean, I read some of the Sub Diego stuff, and, like, I guess that I was more into because it was like, oh, it's like regular people, but
Yeah.
now they're underwater.
Yeah.
But when you dress it up in all the, like, Lord of the Rings fantasy tropes, you know, when you do Atlantis Chronicles, I know that's well regarded and was for years considered, like, the definitive, you know, underwater Aquaman history story. I don't care. I just don't. And the other thing I don't care about...
Do you think... May I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Do you think it might be because it's a class system?
I'm just not a fantasy guy. So
Okay.
fantasy stuff, like, there was never that point in my intellectual development where I got really into fantasy stuff. Like, I was never, like, reading Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or playing fantasy role-playing games or any of that stuff.
Do you still read Coda?
I stopped reading Coda. I liked a lot of
Isola?
what it was doing, but I didn't really... I just couldn't stick with Coda. I liked
Okay.
its approach to fantasy. Isola, I stopped reading because I don't like Brendan Fletcher's writing, and I've tried so many times. And we've talked before about, not to segue into something else, but Brendan Fletcher's a guy who, much like Rick Remender, he's consistently working with really talented artists that I greatly enjoy their work. But the stories that he puts together for those artists leave me so cold. And it's a little worse with the Brendan Fletcher stuff because I'll read the synopsis before a book comes out and I'll think, God damn, that's a winner.
Yeah.
And then I read the first couple issues and I'm like, why is this not working? How did you squander such a great idea? And I mean, like, Isola and Motor Crush and Batgirl and Gotham Academy are all things that have ingredients. Again, like, the art team, the approach, the universe it's in, all that sort of stuff is all, like, exactly what I want. And then I read the comic and I'm like, nope. And I tried them. I tried them all. I tried them for a few issues each. It wasn't just like, I read 20 pages, I'm done. This was, I read a whole bunch of them.
Sure.
But so Underwater Kingdoms, I just fundamentally don't and can't care about. The other thing is basically, like, celestial kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the most boring part of Infinity Gauntlet for me was, like, Thanos kills off, like, the In-Betweener and the Living Tribunal or whatever. Like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, they're just big guys who stand around and make proclamations and whatever. So the idea of, like, a multiversal entity who... I don't care. I just genuinely don't care.
So the new Avengers Weekly miniseries.
Uh-huh. Avengers Nowhere Home. I read the first issue.
That's why I'm asking this question, because I haven't read it. Is it a sequel to No Surrender, or just...
Yes.
Okay. So it has some of those cosmic elements that you hate in it.
Yep.
Okay. Because somebody's asking about it today, and they had not heard about the original series,
Okay. Well, available in a collected format now.
which I was trying to... Because he's like, oh, I'm going to pick this up. I'm like, well, you know, here's roughly what happened. And then he said, is this a direct sequel? I'm like, I honestly don't know. I have not read it.
It's a direct sequel in that there are characters that were prominent in the last one who are
We have
prominent
not
in
seen
this one.
since who are prominent in this one.
Yes. So, but
I
at
saw
the same
Voyager on
time,
the cover.
Yeah, at the same time, the focus is a little different, and it's way more of like a Hercules story.
Okay.
So if you just want to approach it as just a Hercules story, you can definitely do that.
I don't think anybody who buys an Avengers comics wants to approach anything as just a Hercules story.
That's why I would say it's a direct sequel. Because
Okay.
people actually bought Avengers No Surrender
Yep.
instead of people who didn't buy the last Hercules comic that lasted, like, what, 8 issues?
Which I liked.
Okay. You're allowed.
Thanks. I'm completely with you as far as Undersea Kingdoms and the cosmic stories. And I don't even like things that are real sci-fi. Like, I'm not really digging Grant Morrison's Green Lantern.
Okay.
I mean, I know that's, like, it's good for what it is, but those kind of things are just a little too weird for me.
Sure. I am the opposite in that basically the part of my, like, formative years exploring genre, the parts that maybe should have been some fantasy stuff, I just doubled up on the sci-fi stuff. So, like, a ton of hard sci-fi novels and sci-fi comics and sci-fi role-playing games and all that sort of stuff. So, like, what Grant Morrison's doing in Green Lantern is like, yep, that's pretty much where my heart is.
Yep.
That's the stuff I care about. So that stuff works.
I'm sorry, have there been Legionnaires in this book? I'm only up to number 3.
Although there's a throwaway line in the most recent issue of Amazing Spider-Man where Arcade mentions that a death trap includes a impenetrable force field that you would need quantum bands to get past. And I went, Nick Spencer, if you bring Quasar back, I'm going to be so happy. He put a bunch of time into making a new Quasar, and then she hasn't shown up in anything.
That's true. Yeah, I heard that. I'm 2 Amazing Spider-Mans behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm falling further and further behind.
You are.
I really am.
Shame on you.
It's getting a little rough. Well, it's harder when a lot of the books that I read come out every 2 weeks, and then there's an annual.
Yeah, you can just quit stuff like I do. I do that. I read that Avengers No Road Home #1. I went, okay, done.
You're good.
Done.
Yeah.
There's some interesting stuff with the Hulk in it, but that's not enough for me. I can read a Hulk comic just with the Hulk in it. I don't have to read Avengers No Road Home for that.
Yeah, but a lot of other people can't read those Hulk comics because it's hard for us to keep them in stock, even though
they sell so fast.
But they do it, and then they don't, and then we adjust, and then they do.
But that's comic books overall. Like
I know, but we only like the most recent Hulk we have is 6.
There's a bunch of stuff that we have on the rack are like issue 2 and issue 4.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. So we sold out of issue 1. So we reordered. We upped our numbers on issue 2 to accommodate the people that we were not able to serve. And at the same time, we probably ordered more number 1s, either second printing or restocked on issue 1. Then we sold less on issue 2. So we cut our numbers on issue 3, sold out way too fast, and then upped our numbers on 4, and now we're stuck with it.
Yep.
Like, there's been stuff, and I'm sure in their heads people are thinking, well, if you were selling, 15 copies across the board, if you order 17 one month and 14 the next month, yeah, you're going to sell out or you're going to have too many. But there are certain books where I can chart out the ups and downs of it, where we will sell 15 the first month, then we'll sell 14 the second month, then we'll sell 16 the third month, and then we'll sell 13 the fourth month. Who were these people who were coming in just getting issue 3? What happened? And what happened to at least one person who got issue 2 and didn't come back for 4? Like, what's happening? Yeah, comics publishing is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, we had someone in today who's asking for specific things like the Jenny Frison version of Blackbird number 3.
Okay.
Or 5. 5?
The new issue, whatever that was.
And I'm like, oh, we don't have it. I can see if I can order for you. No, they're from out of town.
Okay.
It was a dad and a son. And I'm like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, we're from this part of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, man, I've never heard of that. Like, well, we're right across the border from South Bend. So we do our comic shopping in South Bend.
Okay.
But we only get there once a month. But they're usually pretty good about having stuff. I'm like, not the case here. If you only come once a month, we're not going to be able to fill all your needs. And then he's like, well, we usually shop at the comic store downtown Chicago, but last time we were in town, we stopped by this one and liked it a lot, so we came back today.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And then I had another guy who was saying that this he wants to open a comic shop, and he wants to make it just like ours, because ours is his favorite store, and he likes everything about it.
Thanks.
And I said, hey, man, rather than open one, why don't you try to win one? He's like, oh, yeah, some people told me I should do it. I'm like, go ahead. Yeah. I went so far as to say, I'll tell you what, do it, write up your answer to that question, email it to me, and I'll look it over for you.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. I think that would be neat if he tried. Good for him. I would like to mention that we are in basically a fight to the death, you and I.
Yeah?
Not against each other.
Oh, okay.
We're on one team. Against...
That'll be unique.
Against All-Star Comics in Melbourne, Australia. People frequently hear us talk about them. Well, they went from being our bestest friends to our dire mortal enemies.
It doesn't take a lot.
That's
it's
true.
a very thin line with me, at least.
And this fight is taking the form of Image Comics Little Bird #1. We are fighting to see which city can sell more copies of this book. Because we like it, they like it, they think they can sell more, we think we can sell more. So we're having a fight. We're having and not only is it a city versus city, it's nation against nation, it's continent against continent. It is. Yeah, that counts.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, they're a nation that's a continent,
Yeah.
but we're just a nation inside a
In a
continent.
continent, yeah.
So we're.
That's fine.
I mean, if you can call that, a nation or a continent, I don't. If that's what they want to call it, that's fine.
Now, I did. I have specified to people from Image Comics and elsewhere, and to the creators as well. Darcy Van Polgeest and Ian Bertram, and it was so hard not to say Van Poltergeist, because that's what I always say.
That would clearly you don't, because that would be insulting. I mean, getting someone's name like that wrong.
Well,
I would never do it. Certainly, I have more respect for people than you do, Patrick.
I'm sorry.
Partrick, sorry.
There you go. That as we get closer to this fight actually happening on March 13th up through April 17th, that we're only going to talk up our own city/store. We're not going to tear down
No, absolutely
the other
not.
store.
I mean, I'll do that now, just as a joke. But,
Sure.
But that's not part of our sales pitch, is defeat the other people.
Right.
It's more, show how much Chicago loves comic books.
Yeah, no Crocodile Dundee jokes.
Ugh, no.
No, I'm a huge fan of Men at Work. I have multiple Colin Hay solo albums.
Okay. Where would one of my favorite bands, Allo Darlin, be without their Australian lead singer?
Right. So, to make it a full, fun city versus city fight, like mayors do in Super Bowls or World Series, we decided that each store would, the losing store, the store that sells I try to stay away from winner and loser.
Sure.
The store that sells the fewer number of copies will send the store that sells more numbers of copies something uniquely specific to their city.
Yeah.
And I got the idea of sending them, if we sell less, a Chicago-style hot dog Vienna beef pack.
Oof.
Which would include, poppy seed buns.
Sure. S. Rosen ones?
This was a kit from Vienna beef directly. So, but it could be S. Rosen, sure.
I mean, that's pretty Chicago-y.
Mustard, all these things that
not ketchup, because that's a big deal to
all-
people in
all these
Chicago.
things that they
I
sell,
put ketchup
yes.
on my hot dogs, and I have been flogged for it in public.
But the logistics of sending meat overseas.
Well, I mean, good thing that you won't have to do that, because we are going to win.
And also, some might say Chicago hot dog is not necessarily meat.
Purely academic. This is just one of those thought problems. You're not going to have to actually figure out a solution. You're just going to have to worry about where you're going to put all those canisters of Vegemite.
No, we're going to get boxes of Tim Tams, Tim Tam biscuits.
Cool.
Which are delicious chocolate-covered cookies.
That you, listener, can probably get at your local Target.
Yeah. But they are an Australian
Australian delicacy that you can buy definitely in America.
Look, it's not as if Australia doesn't have hot dogs,
Do they have Vienna beef? Honestly, they might.
They might. I don't know. I didn't ask. So Mitchell's like, I was going to do these. I'm like, oh, I love those. Those are great. It's like, oh, you can get those?
Unfortunately, you guys each ruined the easier thing to do, which is I'll send Chicago comic books. I'll send Australian comic books.
You did that.
You just did that. There's no more left.
So, All Star had their designer do a pretty great poster of explaining it and promoting each store. And I did a graphic and made a Facebook event, and because I made it, I put them first.
Okay.
And on this poster, because they made it, they put us first.
That was considerate.
I know, right? And they did two versions, one which is more their store colors and one which is more our store colors. And they put up a post on Facebook saying, hey, we're doing this. And they got a decent number of people saying, this is a great idea. Like sign me up. I want to do it. One guy's like, hey, I'm your token American customer, but I'll still buy it from you. I'm like, oh, this is great. So I put it up. Mm-hmm. And I get a couple, hey, this is a good idea. And what if I want to buy mine from All Star? Which I 100% knew that I was going to get at least one person doing.
Sure.
So, way to prove me right, Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago, you guys are all jerks.
Yeah.
But I did get at least two people saying, hey, I want this.
Okay.
So that's good. But we'll be promoting it more, and Image will be helping promote it, and the
Cool.
store that sells the most also gets a trophy of a signed copy by Darcy and Ian.
Neat.
So I think this is just a fun little competition.
Hopefully.
Like years ago, when Avengers vs. X-Men was coming out, we took the AVX logo and changed it to Chicago Comics v. Challengers, just for fun.
Sure.
There was no thing like
There was no rivalry.
Yeah,
There was no contest.
we had toyed with the idea of like, oh, we'll be the Avengers, they'll be the X-Men, but it's not like Eddie set team one.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just a fun, dumb thing to do. But I think it's more fun for the industry as a whole when stores work together to promote things.
Sure.
And it's not a...
Definitely does not happen a lot.
It's not a... you can only get your comics from me, your trader, if you go to some other store. It's like, no, all comic stores are great for their own reasons, and comics are good no matter where you buy them. But hopefully you buy Little Bird #1 in Chicago from Challengers. I wonder if mail order counts. We haven't talked about that. Although, to the person that said, well, what if I want to buy mine at All-Star? They immediately commented on our post, postage can be arranged.
Sure. Yeah, I would just assume that mail order counts as much as physical in-store sales, because we're just going to be going off of raw, how many copies did you sell?
Yeah, not how many did we each order.
No.
How many did we sell in a 1 month period?
Yeah, because that number could just be spat out from the register. I don't want to have to break it down versus like, well, these two people had their book shipped out, and this person has it on hold, but they haven't bought it yet. No. Just raw copies sold.
Yeah.
Subscribers,
that's
mail
true.
order, off the shelf, whatever.
If people are like, oh, put 5 on my box, well, if you don't buy those 5 in that month, that doesn't count.
Yeah, copies sold, period.
Yeah. Not copies on order. Not copies on hold.
So yeah, if they got people who want to ship them out, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't... It's not that I so desperately want to win. It's just that I want to include any way that people can get more copies of these books.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm not going to say, no, they can't, so now, you have to sell less copies. No, sell more copies.
Yeah,
Fine.
whatever it takes.
Fine.
Whatever it takes.
Comics are good, and I wish more people were reading them. There you go.
I really do. And we haven't done any hard data on number of sales, number of customers year to year.
No, because we just started keeping track of it this year.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting. Last episode of this podcast, we talked about the sale because it had been 2 days. Sale's over now, and it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was, we were...
Some days up, some days down.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, some Saturday was a really low sale day, which...
Yeah.
It should usually be the best.
Yeah.
It was such a weird thing.
Yeah, Saturday and... it was basically Saturday. Like, the first day of the 2018 sale was a Wednesday, so it was really high.
Yeah.
But the last day was a Tuesday, so it was really low. This year, the first day was a Thursday, which was not as good as the Wednesday of last year, but pretty high.
But the
last
never
day was a
expected.
Wednesday, and so that was better than a normal Wednesday, and significantly better than the final day of last year's sale. So across it, like, everything evened out. We were up slightly over 2018, but when I say slightly, I mean it was probably 3% maybe,
if that.
3 or 4%. It
Yeah.
was, and it definitely needed the last day to get there. But we had some other days that were up. The Friday, I think, was up. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday were up.
The weird thing about it to me is that the sale's been over for a few days and 2 days.
Yeah.
And we had 2 really good days.
Which is great.
Yeah.
There's definitely people that don't care. I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but I think we have a pretty good selection of products. I think we have a good mix of graphic novels and comic books. And I understand if someone comes into the store and they're looking for vintage stuff, we don't have that. If they're looking for single Magic cards, we don't stock those. If they're looking for, a huge amount of different manga titles, we're a little bit more selective on that. But other stuff, I think we've got not everything you could be looking for, but pretty much everything people might have an interest in. So when people who shop at the store regularly can come in and go, no, there's nothing I want for the sale. Like, literally nothing. There's not one new Marvel comic you want to try out. There's not bags and boards you need. There's not a graphic novel that you've heard good things about but you haven't checked out. There's not an action figure that's been sitting on the shelf that maybe you want to pick up. Like, the people who can come in and just buy 3 comics that came out that week and be like, nothing else. I don't get that.
Yeah.
I think 25% off basically everything in the store is a pretty good discount, and it's we can't do much better than that.
No.
Without going out of business.
We won't.
So yeah, it's perplexing. I get if someone's like, I just can't afford it right now, and maybe the I can't find anything is just their polite way of saying I can't afford to get one more thing. But I don't know that it's that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and while it may be a thing we don't understand, we don't have to.
I guess not. It all worked out. It was fine.
Yeah.
It did what we needed it to do, not necessarily what we wanted it to do.
The order for the sale shirts went in today, which I think is the fastest we've ever placed it.
Okay.
They're due in March 6th.
Okay. It's our own and we like them.
Yeah.
Ahead of C2E2 is usually what we're hoping for. And this year is tough because C2E2 is like a month early.
The joke to it was just yesterday out of the blue, I got an email from our t-shirt guy saying, hey man, we haven't done shirts for you since December, which I did a very small run shirt for a personal project in December. Mm-hmm. He's like, do you have anything coming up? Do you have any like specials or big events or anything?
Funny you should ask.
Like, yeah, you're getting my list of shirts later today.
Uh-huh.
But then there was always all right, I went through and made the list. Now, Gina, you go through and double check it. And we had the same totals, but discrepancies in the sizes.
Okay.
So she went back and did it 3 more times and got the final number.
Okay.
And one of it was because on paper I'd written the right thing down, but in my head I'd changed things. And another time was I made a mark. I'm like, oh, it shouldn't go here. Well, I'll leave it. We'll get one more there. Then I'll just, whatever.
Sure.
Anyway, we had the totals in, and it was 65 shirts, which is pretty much our average.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got 1 extra because there was somebody whose size was unclear.
Uh-huh.
And I reached out to them saying, hey, is it this size or this size? And then they get back, so I'm like, I'll get 1 extra just in case.
Sure.
Just in case there's some sort of discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
Still hasn't got back to me, by the way. It's all day. Yeah, an all day thing. Yeah, today was one of those days where the frustrations aside, which, I mean, it was frustrating, but not because, like, there's nothing I could do.
No. And it's healthier when you realize that.
Yeah.
Like, there's been plenty of times where something's gone wrong, and it's like, this is nothing I can fix. It's nothing I caused. It's going to take time. It will get fixed at some point. And being able to sort of, like, make your peace with that and just let it wait.
I mean, if there's both of us at the store and there's a computer issue, the rule is leave Dal alone. Don't talk to him.
If I can focus
don't engage him.
Yeah. But, I mean, if it ever gets to the point where it's like, I have to call Diamond and they will fix it, then it's like, all right, what else can I do in the meantime?
Yep.
But if it's, hey, I need to work on this, I have to do these, like, 17 steps to get it fixed, and I don't know what the 14th step is?
Or step 12 keeps going wrong and I don't know why.
Yeah, then it's like, just please let me focus on this. Which is why when I start working on the new website, I'll probably just do it from home in a couple weeks.
New website? What?
Maybe. Probably. Almost definitely. Just a redesign. Not new. It's not going to suddenly have a bunch of different features. It's mostly just going to look different. Hopefully better.
What is your internal rule for how long you want us to have a website before it changes?
A year or so. Depends.
Really?
There's not a set time. Like, this will be, I think, 2 years, since the last one. Maybe a little longer.
It'll be 2 years ago that we won the best website BPA.
So that was probably 2.5 years, but maybe. Yeah, around a year or so is where I start looking at it and saying, is this effective? Is this doing what I want it to do? And then I think about it for longer and I look at other options.
Is that based purely off of visual aesthetic or page hits?
Oh, visual aesthetic. I could care less about page hits.
Okay.
The page hits are minuscule. It's not about, SEO numbers or any sort of marketing thing, because we don't.
What does SEO mean?
Oh God, what does it? It's like a search engine optimization.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's mostly just for making sure.
Had I read every single one of those spam emails we get about that very topic,
our Google listing, we have so many phone calls about our Google listing. Yeah, it's mostly just thinking about it in terms of like, what is the store? What is the store trying to accomplish right now at this point in its history? And is the website communicating that effectively? There's been different times where we've done different things. Early days, we were definitely fostering a very specific kind of community until Facebook just absorbed all of that in the entire world. And there's no sense in trying to have like a message board or something for your customers. Like,
do you remember Lance's Comic World?
Yes.
Lance Briggs from the Chicago Bears, then
the
the Chicago Bears,
yeah.
having his own basic comic fan social media site.
And our version of it definitely had some advantages, and there was some fun stuff we were able to do, and some people we were able to engage that we might not have normally. But it was a lot of effort into something that everyone could just use Facebook and get all that and more. They were already using Facebook anyway, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
Then there were times that we focused more on like internal commentary, writing reviews, writing short pieces, trying to create like a reason to come back to the site regularly. But that was always an uphill battle. You and I don't usually have time for it, and a lot of the people that were working with us at the time didn't have an interest in doing it. So it was pulling teeth to get that sort of content available, and it didn't seem like it was something that people who were shopping at the store were really finding value in. So then it was just, shifting to different things and changing the layout and the visuals of the website to better address what people who come to the website at that point in time might be looking for, what information they need, what's the best way to make that accessible and visually engaging. And that's a shifting target. I mean, what we're trying to do with the store exists within a spectrum, but where it is at on that spectrum is changing year by year. So every few years is a point where we look at it and go, is this doing its job as well as it could be? And if not, what do we need to emphasize that we're not emphasizing now? And that we're at that point in the website now.
Watching you go through templates or trying to find the one that matches your store is, to me, like going through WordPress, trying to figure out what are we going to do for, what layout do I want? And I hate WordPress.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not good at it, and we don't pay for the functionality, but I use it for side websites and things like Women's Comics Month.com goes to a WordPress site.
Sure.
And the domain just renewed for another year, another 2 years, because I didn't set it to just do one. Pardon me. So I feel like I should do more for it, but I don't even know if people go to it.
Yeah, it's difficult to put that much energy into something where you're not certain that there's a return on it. Our website, honestly, is the same way, where every few years I'll put a bunch of work into it, and then beyond that, it's just like regular maintenance, where you're adding things to it. Because the days in the past where we would constantly be trying to add stuff to it or engage with people, it's just like, I don't know if this is... It never felt... I shouldn't say never. It frequently did not feel like it was worthwhile use of our time.
I do remember several years ago you had said, had we been opening at that point in time, we would just use Facebook.
Probably. I don't know. I mean, that was probably a little facetious. I think you'd still need to have a website, but it might be a very limited single page with just like store information. You know?
Sure.
Here's contact info. Here's our socials.
Yeah. Here's
where we're at. The end. And I mean, I say that out loud, and my brain starts thinking, like, just do that. Can we just... Why am I looking for this way to do all these things where it's like, what? And when we do a website redesign, some of it is just, blank sheet of paper. Like, what do we need to have on the website? Like, there's things that we've had on the website that get jettisoned. Sections for reviews and stuff. That exists somewhere in our database on the back end, but it's not on the front end. It's nothing that we need to have there anymore because they're, reviews for a single issue of a comic that came out 5 years ago. We're not trying to catalog that stuff for all time. It's not relevant to what we're doing now, so it's just sort of in the back. And there's things in the current version, like Parker's Pick is on the front page of our website.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a new Parker's Pick in years. People want that, they can find it on YouTube.
There's been there were two in 2018.
So that's something that we're not necessarily going to have on the front page anymore because it's not...
Active.
Yeah, it's not reasonable to have that on the front page. And then it's just looking at the other stuff and saying, again, kind of what is useful for the store right now to have on a website? And then how do we surface that stuff, basically? How do we make sure that's something that people find right away when they need it?
I mean, that's the same thing you could say about comics in the store, right?
Yeah, and we do that so constantly. We're always looking at, not necessarily huge sweeping changes. Those aren't constant. But always looking at, where is this? Where should it be? Where are people going to look for it?
Hey, let me ask you this.
Okay.
In regards to Detective Comics 1000, so first of all, we're doing a midnight release for that. And by midnight, I mean 12:01 a.m. that Wednesday.
I frequently say 11:59 p.m. that Tuesday.
But we can't sell it that...
I know, but the store opens.
Sure, that's fine.
The way I always look at it is we say 11:59 p.m. That's when we open the door. You're not getting out of there with the book before midnight.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Well, regardless, we were doing a bundle of 10 covers for $80.
Yes.
And that included the normal Jim Lee cover.
The wraparound cover.
And then the 9 decade covers.
Yep.
So when club members sign up for that, how are you denoting it?
What do you mean denoting it?
What are you doing?
I go into Comic Suite and I add them individually for all 10 copies.
As special orders?
Yep.
Okay, that's all.
Yep.
Because that's what I've been doing.
That's all we did for Action Comics.
Because I figured, like, that way, you didn't build a component.
No. I could. It's not. I don't think it's worthwhile.
It isn't. It's just
because
a matter of...
they're all next to each other in the listing. You just type in Detective 1000
And you'll
there's
know.
a listing. You just go
Yeah.
11111. And then what we did for Action 1000 was the same thing, where someone on that week's pulls list has all 10 issues. Then we bundle them up and say this is $80.
Okay.
Because they're already getting them, and then you can just go in and reprice them or just do a 20% discount on all 10 of them, and that gets you where you need to be, and then do a 10% discount on the other ones.
Well, I didn't think there was any special way we're supposed to be marking down, but we never actually talked about it. And did you see that at least one person, and by at least I mean only one, responded to the email button click from the newsletter? Because we got one email that said, "Hey, Bat Friends, I would like to sign up for all..."
Oh, no. Is that what it was supposed to do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought that was just them making a joke.
Oh, no. That was... I laid it out for you.
Yeah. I didn't realize the Dear Bat Friends part, so I didn't...
Yeah,
It's been long enough that I forgot that was the thing.
Sure.
So, yeah, okay.
It actually
worked.
It actually worked.
Wow. Guess you'll have to do it again.
Yeah. Well, it's regular.
No, I mean for other items.
Oh, sure. So that offer still stands, right?
Yeah, I think we had talked about it, and I want to say that the decision was basically up until, like, the Monday before.
Yeah, because FOCs have already passed, right?
Yeah, we're well past the point. And we
Okay.
could probably still add stuff. DC might still have copies still in stock if we needed to up our orders.
And for anybody who's asking to add the Midnight variant cover, you can't.
No.
It is a cover that you get for showing up at midnight to get that book.
Yeah, we may have copies available afterwards.
Yes, if there's any that are left over, and we haven't ordered that one yet, right?
No, that'll probably be on FOC's this week or next week.
If we have any left over, they'll just be on the shelf, first come, first serve. We're not putting those aside for anybody.
No.
Do you have a FOC number in mind for... I'm not asking you to say it, I'm just curious.
I would probably just order it at the level that we were ordering the Decade covers.
You think so?
More or less?
I think more.
Okay, sure. Can do that.
I was thinking...
Okay.
Although, this way.
Yeah, I transposed that in my head. Otherwise, we didn't need to do 2 digits.
That's true. There's a decimal point. Did you see that?
I don't think I can put that in the system, but I'll give it a shot.
See that? Yes. So there. Well, there you have it. The week in comics as seen through our eyes and a faulty POS system. It's not faulty. It had one tiny little error that just took a few hours to fix. Very, very tiny, easy to fix error for the future.
Yeah, I would call it faulty if that was a problem we had,
Regularly.
every month or something. But if it's one error like that every 10 years, it's okay.
Like the high-pitched whine of a movie theater projector. That would be faulty. Did have a guy in today who saw Alita Battle Angel, loved it so much, said he teared up in it, and was almost embarrassed to tell us that, and then said that he actually ruined it for himself by downloading a Russian DVD copy and watching that first.
Weird.
And then going to see it on the screen. But then he liked it so much and cried that he's going to see it again tomorrow.
Okay. I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I did.
Yeah, not a perfect movie by any stretch, but entertaining. I don't think it's... I wouldn't blame anybody for going to see it. It's not like a faulty film.
It was a better film than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know if I can give it a higher praise. I didn't fall asleep.
That is true. Well, that high-pitched whine is definitely enough to keep anybody awake. I wonder...
I had a long day, and I was exhausted when we got to the theater. And I was awake and paying attention for the full 2 hours, whatever.
Do you think the soda and the popcorn help keep you awake, or
That
risked putting you to sleep?
Risk putting me to sleep, yeah.
Really?
Also, the popcorn was terrible.
It was not very good.
Yeah.
I wonder if the lack of success that Alita Battle Angel is predicted to have just comes down to the basic, those big eyes are weird.
Those big
and
eyes are
people,
weird.
just from the first trailer, went, this looks weird.
So the guy who loved it today said, well, I'm a huge fan of cyberpunk stuff.
Okay.
I wouldn't... Is that cyberpunk? That's just
in
cyborg.
the comics, it 100% was cyberpunk. And in the movie, yeah, it's cyberpunk.
Okay.
I mean, it's got mixes of, like, post-apocalyptic stuff instead of the usual, like, noir-inflected, post-capitalist society.
Yeah.
Like, this is not that. A lot of it happens in the daytime.
It also... Yeah, exactly. And it needed more of a...
There's a part where they go for
young
a hike.
punk attitude. Yeah.
You know? A swim? They go for a swim?
In a sunny day. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the eye thing is so weird because it was so, like, weird and off-putting to so many prospective fans of that movie, and I don't think it did them any favors. Like, she doesn't need to have the big eyes. Cyborgs don't all have big eyes in the movie.
No, and that's just the thing. Like, she has big eyes in the manga because it's a manga.
Yeah.
And that's how they're all drawn. Everybody had big eyes in the comics.
And the thing
She's the only one with these giant eyes.
The thing that's especially damaging is that she's the main character, and you need to emote, and you need to be able to, like, empathize with her. And those big eyes, because they're all CG, it's so dead. It's so hollow. Like, the emotion that she needs to express, it always feels like there's a veneer on it. Like, it never feels like you're getting the real emotion. You're getting a computer simulation of what the emotion would look like. So a whole bunch of the movie has to work way harder than it should. Because you have to overcome the, I can't tell what face she's making right now. And then the whole movie has to get so goddamn expensive because you have to computer generate these barely expressive eyeballs. And it's like, what if you didn't do that?
Yeah.
You just let the actor do her job.
Yep.
I don't know. It's an incredibly strange choice that I think hurt them, I would say, way more than it helped them, but I don't think it helped them in any way. I think it only hurt them.
I mean, it stands out. It's a descriptive way to... Did you see that movie with the girl with the eyes?
I guess, but these were not good things. People were not telling their friends, oh my god, you have to see this movie. This girl's eyes are gigantic. They were saying, did you see this trailer with the girl and the eyes? She's got these big...
And she's got huge tracts of land.
Huge eyeballs. Big ol' eyeballs. Yeah, Alita's okay.
Yeah, nonetheless, more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Sure.
I enjoyed it.
I agree. It was more fun than you thought it would be.
That's very true. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.